Hello and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another randomised gaming video, and as always I will be your host for this randomised gaming video, the editor of Randomised Gaming, Random Gamer Riven. Okay, so without further ado, as time is of the essence, allow me to introduce, this is going to be our top 10 digital games to download on the PSP before the store closes. Well, that's the name I'm calling it. I'm actually going to cover a bit more than 10 games. We're going to take a gander at some of the digital only games available and some that are perhaps a bit more expensive to buy at retail these days. Games like the Personas now that have shot up quite drastically, and it's actually cheaper to buy the digital versions. So here's the caveat. Supposedly Sony are still shutting down the PlayStation Portable store. I say supposedly because they officially shut it down a few years back, and we're not entirely sure what's actually being shut down at present. I've also heard some people say that they aren't going to remove PSP games on that are supported by the PSVita and the PS3 via those download services, so in which case they ain't going to remove anything, or they might just remove the whole kit and caboodle and we might suddenly find that all the PSP content has gone. It is a bit bizarre. The communication has been really bad on Sony's behalf. Strangely, they've also removed it from their website, so the website does not list the delisting of the PlayStation Portable content anymore either, so it's really up in the air if anything is going to be removed. Supposedly some people say that the functionality still works in the Go and that's going to be removed, and I've heard other people say that there are one or two games that still have active in-game commerce functions on the PlayStation Portable, but I'm not sure what they are. I can't find them, so supposedly one or two do have it working and those games are going to have that function shut down. Although if I'm partly being honest, I do wonder whether it's a case that Sony have simply forgotten that they've already shut down the PlayStation Portable store. But we do need to be mindful of it, as if they are going to pull all the PSP games from the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita store, there are some really good games that are only available digitally. Now, before I go any further, I will also mention that I'm taking this from a European perspective. There are a lot of games that were released in the US and Japan that are digital only in Europe that still got retail releases, certainly in North America. There's a large chunk of games that got retail released in Japan as well. In fact, most PSP games got a UMD release in one region or another. There are very few digital only games, but there are a couple, and I will be covering as many that I can do. I may be missing out on a few US or Japanese exclusive titles just because I'm not aware of them at present and I haven't had as much time as I'd like to research this feature. I should have done it a bit earlier, that's my fault, but never mind, here we are. At least I'll get something out before the closure's officially taking place on the 2nd of July. But if there is anything you think I've missed or would like me to include on this list, then do leave a comment below to give a shout out to say what game you think, hey, this is going, just to let other people aware. So hey guys, if you're watching this video once it's gone out, check the comments as well. There may be one or two games people suggest in the comments. I will also do a quick list at the very end of games that I'm aware of that has DLC to download that you should grab as well before it goes. Some of it will be paid for, some of it will be free DLC. There's not a huge amount of DLC content with PSP games, but a couple do have content. One final note, I have done the capture footage in a day of all these games, so it's not stellar gameplay on a couple of them, and most of the games it will only be the very start of the game I'm showing a quick selection of footage for. Yeah, some of this footage also comes from previous videos as I was doing everything in a bit of a hurry, so I downloaded some of the live stream footage I'd previously captured and some of the previous gameplay footage as well we've already recorded. I'll be reusing that, and I should note that applies to Pinball Dreams and Pinball Fantasies. Although it's the mini version that works on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Portable, it's a download that works on both. The footage you'll be shown in this video is of me playing the mini on the PlayStation 3. And finally, if you enjoy this video or find it useful, so you learned something about a game you didn't previously know about, please do consider hitting the like button for this video, and please do consider subscribing to the channel. I've actually had to download all these games from the PlayStation Store. Some of these I downloaded previously, but some I downloaded during the shutdown, purely because technically under fair use we actually need to own every single game we showcase in videos like this, which a lot of people I don't think realise. For archival purposes and for fair use, you do actually need to physically own a version of the game you're showcasing. So all the footage shown in this video comes from genuine copies of the game purchased from the PlayStation Store. And with that said, let's kick off with our first title, LocoRoco Midnight Carnival. So if you could only buy one game on the PlayStation Portable, this is the one I would recommend. LocoRoco Midnight Carnival was the third outing of the series on PlayStation Portable, and it's also the only one that was only released digitally. In fact, it's a worldwide digital only release. There is no UMD release of LocoRoco Midnight Carnival either. There's not a remake or update of it as well either. A couple of them have been re-released on PS4. This one hasn't. This one remains to date exclusive on PlayStation Portable, so grab it now while you still can. It's a great little title, and if you enjoyed the previous LocoRoco games, great art style, really fun to play. I will also note there is additional download content for this one. There's some bonus levels you can download, so do grab that as well. If you're downloading this in the UK, there is actually a bundle release, and the bundle release is cheaper than the single release. I actually got stung by the single release because the bundle release I actually had a hard time finding. I think you had to search bundle or something, but initially when I looked for it, I couldn't find the bundle release. I thought, I had to download the single version and then download the DLC separately. No, there is a bundle with the help guide, the DLC, and the main game all in one bundle in the UK store. So my second pick for this list is actually a very interesting one. Now, it's worth me mentioning that you can actually get Final Fantasy 1 to 9 on the PlayStation Portable, and almost all of them have digital releases. Final Fantasy 3 is digital only, and I'll come to that in a bit. But this here is effectively the prologue version of Dissidia 012, and this is, apologies, I'm probably going to pronounce the name incorrectly, but it's a stupid name anyway. Dissidia Duodecim Prologus Final Fantasy, and this was basically a preview build of Dissidia 012. It's a prologue version of the game. It actually has its own unique sub-story leading up to Dissidia 012, and it also gives you your own arcade mode, which has 5 fights and I think a 30 fight sort of survival. There's also a number of challenges and unlockables to try and beat, and if you beat them you gained additional items that could be transferred into Dissidia 012. The game actually has 8 playable characters as well, and one of them is actually unlockable, so there's 7 initially and you have to unlock the last 8th one. And on top of that, this is the only way to unlock Aerith as an assist character in Dissidia 012. Yes, it's effectively a paid-for DLC pack. Dissidia 12 does actually already have its own DLC, but Aerith as an assist character, you can only get it if you've played this prologue version. So do bear that in mind if you intend to want to see everything Dissidia 012 has to unlock. It's nice, if you're a fan of the series, you might certainly be a bit begrudging as this is effectively a paid for demo, but it does have quite a lot of content. It wasn't expensive, $2 to $3, and once you've beaten it you can then transfer everything you've unlocked in this version or this prologue build into the main game. And the story is also unique to the prologue build, so it's something to consider as this is a digital only release, and once they pull the store this will be gone for good. And for the third entry in this list, I might as well mention the Final Fantasy with 3 in the title. That is, of course, Final Fantasy 3. Yes, this is pretty much a straight port of the Nintendo DS version released in 2006, just with slightly better resolution graphics and widescreen. All in all, I slightly prefer the look of this PSP version to the DS version. It doesn't look quite as rough around the edges, but other than that, it's pretty much the same game. It did get a physical release in Japan, but for North America and Europe, it is a digital only release. So if you're a fan of the Final Fantasy series, then you want to play all of them on PSP, you're going to have to get this one digitally unless you want to play it in Japanese. And just while I'm on the subject of Final Fantasy series, it's worth mentioning Final Fantasy Crystal Defenders also got a PSP release, and that's digital only as well. But as that's been released on a number of other formats, I must admit I prefer the Xbox 360 version myself. And taking up the fourth entry is the Armored Core Portable series from Software. So there are actually 4 Armored Core games released on the PlayStation Portable. The only one that got a UMD Western release is Armored Core Formula Front, which, unlike most of the other games in the Armored Core series, wasn't a story-based mission campaign. title, it was purely a mech arena battle game. However, From Software did port 3 of the PlayStation 2 story-based campaign games to the PlayStation Portable, but they only got UMD releases in Japan. In North America and Europe, they got digital releases. This was Armored Core 3, Armored Core 3 Silent Line, and Armored Core Last Raven. All of these had an added portable tag to the end, and it showing in the background right now is Armored Core Last Raven portable. And if you don't know anything about the Armored Core series, basically it's a story-orientated mech campaign shooter where you do various missions and you blow apart enemies, you customise your mechs, you progress the story, battle rival mechs, often there's arena battles as well, and you basically battle to make the top mech in the game and eventually follow the narrative through. Last Raven actually had multiple endings and saw you pitting against two sides to vie for the future of the world, which was quite an interesting structure and was later used in Armored Core 4 as well. They're all excellent games, and if you want a more mission-based structured games, then I highly recommend picking them up. The only downside is, as these are ports of the PlayStation 2 version, because the PSP has less buttons than the PlayStation 2 controller, the controls are a bit hit and miss with these portable adaptations. They're okay, but they have had to nerf the controls a bit, so it does feel a bit of a step back in some areas. But overall, if you fancy playing Armored Core on the go, I can highly recommend all three, although I would advise newcomers and most players pick up the third game first, as you can play through them in order and actually transfer over your save files. Armored Core Last Raven was built as a finale for the PS2 era of games, and I should warn you now, Armored Core Last Raven is extremely hard, so don't have that as your first point of entry. Play Armored Core 3 first, move on to 3 Silent Line, and then do Last Raven. Now this fifth entry is also another multi-game series entry, and it relates to the Y series, or if I'm pronouncing it correctly, East. It's pronounced E-S-S, and it's actually based on an old French legend I found out recently, although the Y spelling actually came much later, which is why it's pronounced totally different to why it's said, because it was originally, I think, spelt with an I or something, and then it was changed for some reason, and so basically we have a totally different spelling with a totally different pronunciation, but you're actually supposed to pronounce it East as in the old way. So now it's fair to say the East series has grown in popularity over the last few years. And sadly for us in Europe, we only got... In fact, I'm going to go back to pronouncing it Y, seeing as that's how they spell it. Y's the 6, the Ark of Nephesism, released over here on UMD in Europe. In North America, I'm aware you got all the titles released in retail UMD form. But over here in Europe, we only got digital releases of Y's 1 and 2 Chronicles, Y's the Oath in Felgara, and Y7, all of which are fantastic games and I highly recommend them. With the price of the American UMD releases accelerating rather rapidly, you can now pay at least 3 times or even 4 times the digital price. I highly invest, if you want to play this series cheaply, at grabbing the digital copies before they get delisted. It is a fantastic action RPG series. The 7th game is phenomenal, but they are all brilliant titles. The whole series follows the plot of Adol and his many adventurers he meets on quite a few ones. He also ventures with his friend called Doogie, and Doogie is actually playable in the 7th game. They are a fantastic RPG series. The footage shown here is from the 7th game. If you want to play them, I highly recommend them because the UMD prices are only going to soar. And even if you're in the US, you probably want to look at grabbing the digital versions over the UMD ones once you look at the prices on eBay at present. Now, for my 6th pick, I am again doing another RPG series that's also again grown in popularity, the Persona series. Now, the PSP actually saw remakes of the first 4 installments. That was Persona 1 or Shin Megami Tensei, Persona 2 Innocent Sin, Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, and Persona 3. Unfortunately, Persona 2 Eternal Punishment was never released outside of Japan, so you're going to need to grab a Japanese copy whichever way you go. But in Europe, Persona 1 was digital only, and Persona 2 and Persona 3 were also released digitally. It's worth noting the price of the Persona games, due to the sort of renaissance they've had with Persona 4 and 5, have skyrocketed exponentially, so the digital versions are much cheaper. I actually went down the digital route for Persona 3. Persona 3, interestingly, had quite a few changes from the PlayStation 2 version. It doesn't include the additional FES section from the PS2 version, but it includes a number of new changes and enhancements. In fact, the game's quite a bit different as a result. It also allows you to play as a female lead. Footage here is taken from the remake of Persona 1 and Persona 3. As a series, I actually prefer the first and the second game over the later ones, and I have to admit the fifth installment I found very, very sluggish. I mean, it took me 5 hours to get absolutely anywhere. It's so slow. But the earlier games are much faster paced. I really enjoyed the first and the second game. Third game's good as well, but again, that starts slowing things down. But if you haven't played any games in the series before, I would definitely recommend starting with the first one, as it keeps things a bit more simplistic and doesn't overly complicate the mechanics, whereas a few of the later games get very complicated. And I will also mention that the earlier Shin Megami Tensei games, and that includes the earlier Personas, do deal with more adult themes with darker storylines that was certainly toned down for the fifth game. 7th up on the list goes to Neo Geo Heroes Ultimate Shooting, which is digital only in the West. There is a Japanese UMD release, but that's it. As it describes Neo Geo, it's basically an arcade 2D shooting game developed by Moss, who are now known for doing the Raiden series, so they've got a good pedigree and it's actually a very enjoyable shooter. And basically it features the various characters from SNK games, who are the various bosses that you fight along the way. You can also play as them as well, so it's an interesting mix-up. The bosses are a little bit wacky, seeing as you're literally shooting the various characters from King of Fighters, Metal Slug, but it's a solid shooter, and if you enjoy the genre, well worth a look. Certainly, as the Japanese retail prices for these type of games are usually very, very high, so it's still fairly cheap to buy on digital, and it's definitely worth a pickup if you enjoy the genre. Now the 8th slot goes to No Heroes Allowed, which is another one of Sony's wondrous ideas of renaming a franchise. Yes, this is basically the follow-up to Badman. In fact, this is Badman 3 in effect, or What Did I Do to Deserve This, My Lord 3. For some reason they changed this, like Holy Invasion of Privacy Badman was the first game, and then they renamed it to like What Did I Do, My Lord, and then What Did I Do, but this is the third game, but now it's called No Heroes Allowed. And what's key about this is this game can import save files from your previous games to unlock a few extras. So this one is digital only in the West, there is no retail release. It does implement a few improvements over the previous two games as new mechanics. As with the previous games, the aim is to bury your Dark Lord in the dungeon, keep him alive from all those nefarious adventurers and heroes who want to slay him. If you like the formats of the previous games, you'll love this. I have to admit, this one seemed a little bit faster and a slight bit easier than the second game, which I streamed a little while back and found out was brutally hard. But yes, I didn't realise until very recently this was the third instalment, and it's only available on digital download in the West on PlayStation Portable. So grab it while you can, especially if you're a fan of the series. At number 9, we have a very interesting digital-only title here in the Europe and the US with Ape Quest. Have you ever wondered what an RPG would like if you took the apes from Ape Escape and could play as them? Well, now you can find out. This is a sort of RPG come minigame mix as you explore various locations, you do various quests, encounter various mini-games on your travels, and fight various battles as one of the monkeys from Ape Escape. They are fantastic, or apes I should say. They are fantastic. It's hilariously funny. It's a really good, enjoyable game, Ape Quest, and it's certainly not your conventional Ape Escape game. It's literally like an RPG with apes in it, so it's just fantastic. I always love the cutesy arts style Sony did and Japan Studios did for this. Really is fun. It is digital only, as said, in Europe and the US. However, I wasn't able to find this in the PS3 store last time I looked to buy, so I don't know quite what's going on there. Sony, as I've mentioned before in our previous video, have screwed up with some of the store listings, not listing stuff. Last time I checked a little while back, it was still on the web store, but as the UK web store's been closed, I couldn't seem to see it. It may still be on the PlayStation Vita store, as that's separate to the PS3 store, which is a bit of a nightmare. So basically you're more likely to get on the PS Vita store, but if like me you're a PSP owner and you don't have a PS Vita, you have to use the PS3 store. So yeah, shutting down the web store was a really bad idea, and you may find you have difficulty finding this in Europe. It was in the I did check, it's in the US store, but I couldn't see it in the UK one for some reason, at least on the PS3. It may be there, maybe I just didn't search hard enough, but do keep an eye out for it. But it is a great game, and it should still be up there. If anyone can't find it, then do give Sony a complaint or a mail, or tweet some of the customer support and their heads of the company just to say, get this sorted, we want to buy it. And for my 10th pick, and apologies, there are a lot of games I haven't gone through and I wanted to go through more, but as time is of the essence, what I'm going to do is just literally leave in the description below all the games that I know that are digital in one region or another and just say pick these up ASAP. So apologies, I can't cover everything. I'll do that for some of the DLC as well. I'll just mention a bit of the DLC and a few of the minis coming in a sec. But I've actually chosen Trails of a Sky, or Legends of a Heroes, Trails of a Sky, second chapter. So, actually one of the few PlayStation Portable games released on two UMDs. It's a colossal game. It's a follow-on from Trails of the Sky. Trails of the Sky was originally actually part of the mainline Legend of Heroes series, and then they kind of took it off and spun it into its own thing. So it is a fantastic sort of tactical RPG. I really enjoyed the first one. I haven't played that far into the second one. Apologies, the footage isn't great. There's a lot of cutscenes going on in the opening sections, and I didn't have time to sit through them all to get to some action, so apologies, there's not much action in the background here, but it is a fantastic tactical series. Don't take my word for it, go look up some other people's videos, playthroughs. The only downside is there are actually 5 Trails of a Sky games on PlayStation Portable, and the second one wasn't translated in English until 2015. Incidentally, the 5th one got released in Japan on the PlayStation Portable in 2011, to give you how far behind they were. They actually conclude with an initial trilogy, and then there's 2 more, which I read. One was called Zero, which is actually a follow-on from the trilogy, and then there's Trails of a Sky AO, I think. Apologies if I've got them wrong, but there's basically 5 on the PSP, and yeah, they are great, but only 2 have been translated into English on PlayStation Portable. A third was translated, the third installment was translated in English on PC. I don't think the 4th and the 5th installments have been translated officially in English yet. I think there might be fan translations only. They are a great series. I actually wish Falcom would just do a port of all 5 of them in one collection or something, just to make a really nice meaty package and actually get them all translated. But yes, the second one is only available on stores digitally in English in North America and Europe. However, it is, as is the first one, but you can get the first 3 in English on PC. The first one also got a retail release in English, but it was very limited. Okay, so if I could do an 11th pick, and I would do an 11th pick if I had the time, I would say Patchwork Heroes on the PSP is another must pick up from Acquire. It's a brilliant game. We've previously covered it on the channel, so I'm just going to link you to the video. Other high quality versions that are digital only as well. Phantom Brave, the Homodia Triangle, I think it's pronounced. Basically, although you guys in the US got Phantom Brave updated on Wii and PSP, we only got the PSP version of the updated version, and we only got that digitally as well. And as I really enjoy Phantom Brave, getting that enhanced version is a must, although it's worth mentioning that's the last console version. It is now available since 2016 on Steam on PC. And Prinny Can I Be a Hero 2 is also another one that in Europe is digital only. That also has DLC to download, as does the original Prinny Can I Be a Hero. So do bear that in mind if you want to buy both those games. They do have DLC. Prinny 1 I think only got a retail release in the UK. But both, I believe, are now available on Switch in a collection as well. So again, not quite as pressing some of the other games. But if you want to play them on PlayStation, I highly recommend a pick up. And I'm also going to mention Brandish the Last Revenant. Again, we previously covered that in stream. Brilliant game. Highly recommend it if you enjoy sort of Falcom RPGs. It was really good. Watch the stream. Also digital only, and I really wish I'd actually done a video. In fact, if they're still up I'll be off next week, so mid-July I will do another video showing gameplay footage, as I've actually recorded a ton of additional footage. But certainly Numberlast, which is an interesting little puzzle game, which you can just see in the background here. And also, I'm going to pronounce this one, Pikiyotama, which is another Sony game as well. Both Numberlast and Pikiyotama are Sony games. Nice little quirky puzzle games. Not big games, not expensive games, but quite nice to play. They're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but they're a great little time and space filler. Both are also available on PlayStation 3 as well. It's just if you want the portable versions. Also worth a mention was the excellent Worms Battle Islands, which is only available digitally on PSP. There is also a Wii version, but the PSP version was really great. I did stream it the other week, so I'll just link to that stream. Blackrock the Shooter is another interesting RPG, sort of turn-based come shooter game. It's not quite an action game, it's sort of more RPG, but you have guns and stuff. It's quite unconventional. It was very interesting to control. And you also have Cladoon 1 and 2, which are sort of rogue dungeon RPG games. Certainly worth a look. The first two are only available digitally, and they were both released on the PSP. I think the third game was released on the PS Vita and PS4, so that you can get retail copies of. And there's also quite a few other oddities that I'm not going to name. Instead, I'll include a list in the description, but Dragon's Lair got a PSP release. Apparently Strikers 1945 Plus Portable got a North American release, digitally only, but not in Europe. Fates Unlimited Codes apparently had a digital only release in the West, however that's since been delisted. There's quite a few Generations of Chaos games, so there's like Edis, Eclipse Generations of Chaos and Generations of Eclipse Pandora's Reflection, and a few others. I said, check out the description below for anything I've missed. Oh, and Beta Block only got a digital release in North America, I discovered. There's also like games like Beats and Auditorium as well, but I've not played a lot of these, so hence why they're only in passing mention. Finally, there is also some great mini titles while they're still up and about. Some have already been delisted, but minis are games that can be played on PSP, PS Vita and PlayStation 3. And as you can see here, there are some great ports of Pinball Fancies and Pinball Dreams. Pinball Dreams technically got a UMD release as well on PSP in Europe. It was part of one of those bundle collections they did. They did a couple of them that were sort of like PSP digital volumes or something. Speedball 2 as well got a great little minis release, and there are a couple of other sort of interesting and quirky minis. There's also a few SNK arcade games like Gang Wars here that are quite nice to play on PSP, although they don't support simultaneous 2-player on PS3, so they're not perfect renditions. So I want to wrap this up and keep this video under 30 minutes, but DLC wise, some games it's worth mentioning actually had DLC that you connect to the online and then you'd be able to download it in-game via various things. Mega Man Powered Up did that, as supposedly does quite a few other games, so there are quite a few that will probably have functionality and online features now removed that did have DLC. I know Lemmings originally had that as well. There's some sort of DLC you could download, doesn't work anymore. The games where you can buy the DLC include Lord of Arcanus, God Eater Burst, Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy, Disgaea 2 Dark Hero Days, only the second one has DLC, Echo Shift has 3 DLC, Trini 1 and 2 have DLC, Gran Turismo has 3 DLC, I think Killzone Liberation apparently had a load of DLC, maybe it was in-game. Eye of Judgment Legends had 4 DLC packs, but one you can't get anymore as it was only available via a code when you bought the game, that are all now defunct. Valkyrie Chronicles 2 had DLC. 3 has DLC, but there is a complete edition with it, and then you can just download it via in-game passcode. Wipeout, Pulse and Pure apparently have DLC. Dynasty Warriors Strike Force, What Did I Do to Deserve This My Lord 2 had paid for DLC, Motorstorm, Arctic Edge, and there's quite a few more. There are a few sites that do list all the games with various DLCs. And finally, that's it from me. I'm going to finish for now, so hopefully I'll be able to grab a bit more PSP stuff before the store finally closes. Although when I tried to buy some stuff earlier, it wasn't allowing me. It was throwing up a weird wobbly, so I'm not sure what was going on there. So hopefully this PS3 store hasn't rolled over thanks to the latest PS3 update, but we'll find out shortly. But as always, if you enjoyed our content, please do consider hitting that like button, very appreciated. And again, if you like our content here at Randomised Gaming, please do subscribe. As I said, do comment below if you know of games that we haven't included or should include in that list. And if there's enough demand for this video, I might do a follow-up and actually include more games, as there was quite a lot I didn't get to cover. Or maybe I'll do an enhanced version of this video where I cover the rest of them and actually include better footage. Apologies, I've had to slightly rush this one, so some of the things I should have included I haven't done, and I should have included like title banners and things, but as it's Thursday the 1st of July, just as I'm putting this video to finish, I really do need to wrap it up now and get it live, so I'm just going to have to do the slightly rough around the edges version of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.